never been tracked as a speaker before, so this is new for me. That's the request of Steve, so. All right, I want to start off with just a simple exercise. If you can stop, just put your forks down for a minute. Put your hands together like this, like you normally do. Okay. Now open them up, take it over a slot, and close them up. Tell me how that feels. Different? Great. What else? Awkward. What was over here? Uncomfortable. Right? Because we're really comfortable here. Cross your arms. Now cross them the other way. Some of you are still working at it. All right? Now, this is not wrong, okay? It may feel wrong, but it's not wrong. So what I want to do today is I want to challenge you in your belief in leadership. Now, it doesn't belief to have nothing to do with faith. Here's the definition of belief for today. Belief is a thought that you trust to be true about leadership. Today. Not in the past, not in the future, but today. Now, what do I mean by that? The best example I give when I talk is when I was 16, the belief I had about my father, I trusted my thought to be true. He didn't know anything about the world. Because he didn't give me what I wanted when I wanted it. Didn't let me do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. He was controlling. And I knew better about the world. Now, when I became 22, my father became the smartest man in the world. He didn't go to school. He didn't read a bunch of books. My belief about him in the world changed. My belief about him that I trusted to be true was different at 22 than it was at 17 because I changed. Not my dad. My change. He's one of the smartest men I know in the world. And why do I say that? Because I'm still learning what he tried to teach me. And he's passed away. So every time I reflect, I go, wow. Now, just before Thanksgiving, I went back to my old town in Tustin. I spoke at the Tustin Community Foundation breakfast there. A lot of government people from the city of Tustin, a lot of business people. To get prepared for that, do you think I went down some old paths? You better believe I did. And I figured out that there were some things my dad tried to teach me back then that I learned about during that trip back. So I'm going to challenge you in your belief about what you trust to be true today about leadership. You okay with that? Yes. Or we can talk about space planning if you'd rather do that. No? Now, before you go, I'm a CEO, have operations, multiple places. I want to thank you guys for what you do. Because I don't know very many situations where you get called where it isn't an emergency. It's not a fire. Right? Is that true? No? You guys don't fight fires all the time in facilities?
Yes.
I mean, I know in my company we do. Yeah, all the time. All right? Now, what's interesting is I appreciate what you guys do. And I know at times that I demand pretty much a lot from my facilities people in a very short period of time. You guys always get enough time to do your tasks? Okay, all right. I didn't think so. All right, let's talk a little bit first about servant leadership. What we do at Datron and how we defined it, there's a lot of people who will tell you what servant leadership is, right? A lot of people will teach you about it. What we do is teach about what we did to implement it in our company. We're a military communications company. 90% of our business is done outside the United States. And we sell to developing countries where the U.S. is supporting them to help change their country from what it is to a democratic state, okay? Now, that comes with a lot of challenges because we've sold in 80 different countries. Do you think we face different cultures? You better believe it. I got people who, boy, it's different in every country. So I'm going to tell you a couple stories about what servant leadership has done for our customers. First one I want to tell you about is Zimbabwe. My first job in the late 90s with Datron was to find financing for a $15 million project to implement high-frequency radio communications, long distance, that would allow them to send photographs to their borders to secure their borders. Now, I'd never been to Africa. Now, that was an eye-opener for me. I got the financing from Exim Bank in the U.S. Took us about 2 years to get it done. I met a gentleman there. He was head of comms for the Zimbabwe Republic Police. His name was Eric. I had dinner with him. I said, Eric, how can we serve you? How can we help you? And he said, Art, I don't have a great president. Mugabe was president at the time. He says, we're going to have demonstrations during elections. He says, I want to control those demonstrations with great communications so I don't have to bring out weapons. I said, Eric, I'll help you do that. So after 2 years, we got equipment installed, got paid. 7 years later, the Associated Press wrote an article here in the States that said the elections in Zimbabwe this year were the least violent in the country's history. I took that article, got all my employees together, and said, hey guys, this is why we do what we do. We save lives. All right? That's one. At the other end of the spectrum, just 2 years ago, I was in London at a trade show. A retired general from Jordan, another country we do a lot of business in, came to me and said, Art, we're celebrating our 100-year anniversary of the great Arab revolt in Jordan. We made 100 coins to commemorate that. He says, I want you and your people at Datron to have one. I said, thank you. He put it in my hand, grabbed my hand, and said, I want you to know that you and your people at Datron have served the country of Jordan more from your heart than any other company we've ever done business with. All right? That's the best compliment I could get as a servant leader. Now, he wasn't the general that came to Vista the first time we did business. I became good friends with that general. He came to Vista, spent a week with us. About a month after he left, he sent a note to his people and said, I want to do business with Datron. And his people said, we haven't evaluated the products yet. He says, I like the character of this company. These are the type of companies we should be doing business with. I love bringing my customers to my facility because they get to see the heart of my people and what servant leadership is all about. And you know what? My big defense companies that I compete with, they don't do that. They don't understand how we get what we get, how we do what we do, because we serve from the heart, not from the pocketbook. All right? Now, the last story I'm going to end with before I get into some details on how to make it happen in day-to-day life. How do you apply this? Last story is Afghan National Army. We do business with them. We're the sole source supplier for VHF and HF radio equipment in Afghanistan. We sell to the U.S. government because they're funding it all. We gave them a radio. They trained on it for 2 years. They couldn't make it work. General came to Vista with a lieutenant colonel from the U.S. Army, and he said, Art, your radios don't work. And I said, well, what's your challenge? And he says, well, most of the people that are being recruited for the ANA at the time couldn't read or write their own language. I said, what percentage? He says, 80%. I said, okay, how long do you have to train them, and how long can it take before you have to deploy them in the field? He says, I have to train them how to read and write their own language. I have to train them how to use your radio. And I have to put them in the field in 3 to 6 months. Now, in the U.S. military, if anybody's done business there, new radio goes out to Camp Pendleton and gets beat up for at least 2 years, maybe 3 years, 5 years before it goes in the field. He had 3 to 6 months and was expected to be successful. I asked him and Lieutenant Colonel, what do you need in a radio? Came back in 30 days with 5 things. I said, give me a year. We developed a radio just for him. We traveled into Kabul, went to his office. I said, General, this is a radio we made just for you. Now, the general could hardly speak and was puffing up. And he looked at me and said, Art, thank you. And he said, no one has ever done this for me before. They've always come to my office and told me what I had to buy, didn't ask me what I needed, and give me a product that fulfilled those needs. Today I have over 45,000 of those radios on the ground in that country. 45,000. Because I took the time. I wasn't worried about revenue in the first 12 months of dealing with them. I was worried about what we can do to help you provide security for your nation and your citizens and sovereignty for the country of Afghanistan. Now, The side thing I didn't expect to get out of that was opportunities to speak to generals about servant leadership. Because here's what happens. They come to Vista, they spend a week, and they ask if they can have time with me. And about 80% of them want to talk about servant leadership. Now, some of the generals I've talked to about servant leadership around the world come from countries where if you even talked about it, you would not be around. So I can't tell you the country that's had the biggest impact on. But these men want to implement servant. They say, oh, my country needs this. Now, you want to influence people around the world? You want to influence people? Start with your customers. Because they're going to be the ones that's going to spread the news about you and your company. Now, at Datron, we define servant leadership to inspire and equip those we influence. Now, notice I didn't say who's in your department, who reports to you. How many parents do we have in the room? With kids, right? Anybody had the experience where your young child said something that just horrified you? And a day later, you realize they learned it from you. That's influence. We believe everybody influences someone in the organization. And the more it happens at the lowest levels of the organization, the faster things are going to get done. And I've seen it time and time again. So, inspire and equip those we influence. Now, the important thing to do as a leader, CEO, I come over here, I inspire this group. I come over here, you're inspired, I equip you. What's the best thing I can do right now? Walk out that door. I've inspired you, I've equipped you, you've received it. Get the heck out of the way. Let your people do what you trained them to do. Because so many people want to hold on to the power and control things, and that's why things don't get done. Just look at what's happening on the East Coast. Anybody feel good about what's getting done back there right now? I didn't think so. All right, let's talk about how you implement servant leadership. Because if you serve from the heart instead of your pocketbook, it's all about how you behave. How you behave. You want to help people? If you don't want to help people, my talk today is not going to help you. That's not going to help you. Maybe I'll plant a seed that maybe I'll get you to start thinking about it down the road. But I will tell you, everybody we talk to around the world at any level, they're looking for a change. They're looking for a change because what we're doing right now isn't working. So let's talk about how you implement that on your handout in family. We just came out of the holidays. We're getting back in our routines, right? Ask people, how was your Christmas? Great. Everything go well? Yeah. I'm ready to go for the new year. How come you're so excited? Christmas is over and my family, what? Left town. People are thrilled because their families left town. They love them to a certain amount of time, and then they're ready to be done with them. If I want to help that person, or if I want to love that person up, is there a time constraint to how I want to serve them and help them? No. My hand's out all the time. I'm never going to put it in my pocket. Families, you have kids you influence. You have teenagers to influence. You take one idea today. If you have a teenager in the house, that's a little frustrating. Nobody has those, right? Just go, when you go in the store next time, pop your head into your son or daughter's room and say, hey, I'm going to the store. Can I pick you anything up? All right? And they may see you look at what? You want to get me something? Who's paying for it? All right? They're going to ask who's paying for it. Well, I'll get it for you. If you need it, I'll get it for you. We've had stories like that in our company where family relationships have been impacted because parents serve from their heart, not from their pocketbook. Big difference. Pets are the same thing. Dogs, everybody can relate. Tail wags like crazy. Cats, not so much. Two different ends of the spectrum, right? Do you love your family enough to love them all year long, or just the 2 weeks at Christmas? You love your kids unconditionally? Do you really love them unconditionally? I'm going to challenge you that in a little bit. Next one, we're going to talk about capabilities. And this is about the people. I learned this from a very, very smart man early in my career, in my mid-20s. And he taught me that you're going to run across about 4 different people. First box says you're going to have people that are willing, but they're not able. Anybody have those? They will do anything for you in the company, but man, you got to come behind them and clean up after them. Because they're not able. but they put their hands up, they'll volunteer for anything. Next group is they're not willing, but they're able. Anybody know what the engagement percentage is in the United States? Runs around 30%. 70% of our employees are not engaged. There's different levels of that. They're able, but they're not willing. Able, but not willing. What about the not willing and not able?
Fire them.
Fire them. Yeah, there you go. Yep. Spoken like a true power leader, man. I love that because I did the same thing. A little different servant leadership is my responsibility for the employee doesn't end at the end of the employment relationship. Because my job is to help them find a job that will accept them the way they are. Because they're going to be happier there. They're not going to be happy in my company. In my company, if you want to help people, I don't care your religion. I don't care your cultural background. I don't care. The thing that pulls us together is helping people, regardless of who they are. Regardless. If you're all about yourself in my company, you will not last. And most of the time, you'll leave on your own accord because you can't stand it. What's this stuff about caring about other people? I hate it. I got to get out of here. And if they don't want to leave, what did we say over here? Let them go to work for your competition. Think about that. Come on, you'll get it. If they're not willing and able to do anything, why are you keeping them? Let them go to work for your competition. Let them go screw their company up. All right? I'll guarantee you, if they find a company that will accept them the way they are and how they believe, they're going to be a whole lot happier. A whole lot happier in life. I run across people in each one of these categories. Where do you think leaders spend most of their time in those 4 categories? Anybody want to guess? Willing and not able. What was it over here? Able, not willing. Now, I love to spend time with people who are able and willing. If I had my choice every day, I'd go spend time with them. Because I'm going to get it done a lot quicker. Team's going to be behind me, and they're going to get it done. I'm going to spend time with people who I believe are able, but maybe not willing, and see if I can change them. Or the other way around. The last group, I'd probably spend more time there fixing their problems. And I'd be better off getting rid of them. All right? Where are you spending your time in your organization as a leader? And based on these 4 classifications, ask yourself every morning, what's the best thing I can do for my organization today? What's the best thing I can do? Maybe it's not going and working with people you like. Maybe it's going and working with people you don't like that aren't performing, and it's about time to do something. People will tell me at times when I let people go, what took you so long? Because the people in the company know what's going on. How come you didn't catch up, Art, and get done with it? Next one is this one I love, peers. Seniors, boomers, Gen Xers, and millennials. And we're about ready to get a 5th one in the workplace. Everybody doing okay there? So right down under seniors, how do they like to communicate, seniors? Well, before that, I've been watching the series Queen on Netflix. They spend most of their time what? Writing. Write me. Send me a letter. Give it to me. They didn't have email. Boomers in my age, what do I want? Email. No, that's too soon. Call me. Call me. I mean, I'm the age of the multi-dialer, big phone, speaker phone. You got to write down everybody who called on the, who called while you were out. We didn't answer them all the time, so we had to get this little round thing with a stick on it and stick them all on top of them. And they stayed there for a month, and then you got tired of looking at it and throw it away. All right? We're the call generation. Call me. Gen X is what? Email. Send me an email. I get so tired of emails. But I'll tell you this, I discovered that's why God invented the delete button. Because if you send me an email that's more than a page long, more than likely I'm not going to read it. If you send me an email where there's an argument going on and the email's 10 pages long, it hits the trash button like that. Don't bring me into your argument in email. All right? Just this past week I asked for input on how one of our leaders gives guidance on using expedited shipments. I said, I don't want to review everything that's gone on in the last month or so. This is about what guidance you're providing. 3 emails later today, I have an email like this explaining everything that happened over the last 2 months. I'm going to send that back to her and say, hey, this is nice. I'm not going to read it. Go back and read the email and answer the question. All right? Because what are we doing? They're passing the tennis ball to you. What do you should be doing? Don't grab it. Send it back over the net. Tell them to give you what you need. Then we have the millennials. What world do they live in? Text, Facebook, Instagram. What else? I mean, what is Snapchat? I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what it is. But what I do know is that if I don't meet that group where they are, and this is where they live, am I going to get to that group? So you have to meet them where they are. So not only do you have the categories, willing and able, but now you've got generations. Now the second thing, the generations, what I find in companies, and we've been having a lot of fun with this the last 3 months, is I ask companies, tell me how long you've been with the company. I've run into companies that have 15, 20, 25 years. The other half in the room are below 5 years. Now, not only do you have generations gap, now you have experience gaps. I'll guarantee that people have been working together for 20 years. They know the language. They know how to get things done. They know who not to tell to ask for help. They know where not to go. The other people, they're just trying to figure out where to go. How do you bring that knowledge together? How do you encourage your people to utilize all of the knowledge that's in your company? Not just the little bit. Get out of their silos. This is a big problem, folks. Millennials today, we're being told, will have 25 jobs in their lifetime. Between 20 and 25. You have 2 years to impact that life. We had a millennial leave after 3 years. As a matter, oh man, we put so much time, we put so much effort, blah, blah, blah. I said, what was he looking for? Well, he wants a position that has this, this, and this. Do we have that? No. Well, then help him find it. What's wrong with that? You're going to impact that life in a positive way. Isn't that what our job is as leaders? It really is. So who cares whether it's inside our walls or outside our walls? And Mike will tell you, if you're doing things the right way and getting results the right way, they're not going to leave. They're going to stay. I haven't had a turnover problem on my company for almost 20 years because people want to come to work for us because of what we do and how we do it. All right, next one. Oh, boy. What's the next one? Oh, man, we just can't wait to jump into that one, can we? Yeah. Now, Gallup does a poll every year, confidence in institutions. Guess which one is the lowest every year? Anybody want to guess? Congress. When I started tracking this poll 15, 20 years ago, they were at 13%. The last poll I saw, they were down at 5%. What are you doing? What do we have every couple of years? Every 4 years? Elections. That's why our term limit's right there. And what's interesting is people get surveyed, I don't have confidence in them, but they're going to elect the same people. Oh, Lord, tear my heart out. But here's what I've learned. I can't come into a room like this and influence people if I have a political affiliation. Think about that. If I came in with an affiliation with a certain party, and I was talking about politics, would you listen to me? Some of you may not listen to me because of just who I'm associated with. So there's a group of servant leaders that teach servant leadership in the country. We've come to the agreement that we will not be affiliated with any party. We will not donate to, etc. Now, I'll tell you, we had that discussion about a year and a half ago. Just this past December, we all have divorced from anything and everything we're doing in politics. Because we want to serve the life, not a party. And some people we can't serve if we have a party affiliation. Now, that's a big difference. I have a congressman, good friends with, came to me, wanted a contribution. I told him, you need to come talk to me, told him what I was doing. Very polite, said that's great. In his own political words, told me I was stupid. All right? Because what's he looking for? Money. We stay away from that. We stay away from it. Because we believe if we're here to serve people, we can't serve it when we have a political affiliation or ideology. Because we lose credibility. So we stay out of that world. But here's what I'm going to challenge you to do. I don't care what party you're in. Can you agree to disagree? Can you treat everyone, regardless of how they see you or feel about you or what they believe in, with dignity and respect 100% of the time? Think about what this world would be like if you could pick up a newspaper or watch something on our device here in the news and not see any name calling. I'm ready for it. I'm tired of it. And I'll tell people in organizations that come to our conferences, people say, my boss doesn't believe in servant leadership. I said, okay, so what? And they're looking at me, well, if I don't have permission from my boss, I can't implement this leadership style. I said, nah, not so much. And they say, why? I said, this is easy. And here's why it's easy. You don't need permission from anybody. Anybody in your family, anybody politically, anybody in your company, to treat other people with dignity and respect. You don't need permission. So start with where you are and watch what happens in your organizations. I've seen more leadership movements start at the lowest level outside of leadership in companies because people wanted to change. And sooner or later, the results are so good, the leaders go, what are you guys doing down there? Because we need to bring it over here in this division. Our largest client is training in 48 states, 110,000 employees. And it started in a small division in Texas, where the guy said, I need to change what I'm doing. That's the impact we can have. Last one, and I'm going to close with this, ideology. You know, I asked earlier if you loved your children unconditionally. And I've got two stories to tell you here. Believe who you are, what you are. That's up to you. But when it comes to service, we serve the people. We don't serve the ideology. How does that work in real life? There was a teenager 4 or 5 years ago in a school district here in San Diego County. A young lady stuck in a young man's body. Decided at 15 years old that life was too difficult and took her life. The school district wouldn't let them have a memorial for that life because of the social sensitivity of the issue. We called the family up. We had a friend that knew the family. You want to come to SLI, our facility, and have the memorial? You can use that facility. Now think about that. I'm not going to celebrate that life because I don't agree with what that life is. That's horrible. About 2 years ago, I had lunch with a gentleman downtown San Diego. He wanted to talk about servant leadership and doing some work for him. We spent most of the lunch talking about his son. And he was a gentleman who, his son plays video games all the time, going, I can't get him out of it. I said, have you ever thought about helping him find a job in the gaming industry? I never thought about that. And then the gentleman, I counseled this gentleman about 7, 8 years ago. He was happy and sad at the same time. And I said, asked him, do you love your kids unconditionally? He said, yeah. I said, why are you so happy? He says, my son's getting married. I said, why are you unhappy? He said, because he's getting married to another man. I said, so what? Now, I'm a man of faith. But when it comes to helping people, I don't care. And I took that father to task and said, you just told me you love your child unconditionally, which means they will do anything, and nothing they do will change how much you love them. My daughter was the demolition derby queen, and I'll close with this one. How am I doing on time, guys? Am I doing all right? Okay. She was demolition derby queen in North County when she started driving. I did some training with 4 firefighter cities and their EMTs over the last couple of years. One was in November. And I said, some of you guys would probably help my daughter. She wrecked every car we gave her. Everyone. Everyone. And I was a father. I didn't get this down yet that they needed to hear something different from me. I was the one that ranted and raving as soon as they walked in the door. What were you thinking? When are you going to become an adult? I'm talking to an 18-year-old. You got to be kidding me. When are you going to become an adult? When are you going to put some meaning in your life? When are you going to... She rolled a car out in Valley Center, and we went out to the junkyard to get some things out of it. She totaled it. She was lucky to get out of it alive. I watched my daughter cry looking at that car. She said, Dad, I don't know how I got out of that. I said, I do. I said, there's a whole group of parents who've been praying for the kids for the last 6 years. I know how you got out of that. She didn't understand what I said. She cried on my shoulders for about 10 minutes. We got out of there. And so she started to listen a little bit, but she wasn't fully convinced that I was for real. She wrecked another car. Got a little small accident. And I had been learning about servant leadership from a lot of different people. She walked in, and I tried a different tack with her. I looked at Jennifer and I said, honey, there isn't anything that you can do that will change how much I love you. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I'm going to love you the same today as I did yesterday. And I told her, you can wreck as many cars as you want. I'm going to love you the same. Go to bed, get some sleep, and we'll start dealing with this in the morning. Now, I'm a smart man. I knew I said something the night before that I didn't mean to. So the first thing I addressed with her the next morning was, I do care how many cars you wreck. All right? So let's get that off the table right now. All right? You got to stop wrecking cars. But I'm not going to love you differently today, tomorrow, or in the future. And we started treating her like an adult, not demanding she be an adult. Big difference. She gave Lori, my wife, and her mom, and I a great compliment in this world on Facebook. And somewhere in Facebook they said, who's your heroes? Jennifer said, my mom and dad. Because they stuck with me when I was doing stupid things. That's the best compliment I can ever get from my children. And it's because I started living my life from the heart and nothing else. Now, it can change your life. It can move you in directions that you will never believe is possible. The stories of your employees will be amazing of what they do. We have a charitable fund. The way we let our employees live our purpose in helping people, we put aside 10% of our operating profits into a charitable fund, donor advised fund. Not in a bank account the company owns. Once you put it in a donor advised fund, it's done. I can't get it back as a company. But you know what? That was the ties to Lori and I. We didn't feel comfortable turning that over to our home church because the people in the company helped build that profit and perform and deliver. So they get to give away 90% of that. And they get to decide what nonprofit organizations they want to help. That they want to help. I have people from all over the world working for us. We've helped amazing things in Africa, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, in the US, Canada, Latin America, because of my employees' hearts. And I had to give them a vehicle so they could live what we were asking them to live. And so we gave them 9% of every dollar we made. Now, it doesn't make the IRS happy, but it sure makes me happy because I'm not giving it to the government who's going to waste it. That's just a little side input from me. Since we started that fund in 2005, our employees have given away over almost $16 million to charities on their hearts. And you know what? Big companies in town can't compete with that because they don't do that. And so people don't leave our company because we don't live by what we say. We do some things in a servant-led way in our company. It's changed our lives. It's changed our employees' lives. It's creating amazing results. And what we've learned from all that is it matters how you get results in your company. It matters. Because if you don't get them the right way, they're not going to last. If you don't get them the right way, you're not going to survive the downturns. Because every company goes like this. How you get the results is more important than the results themselves. I'm going to challenge you in your leadership beliefs again. If there's something I've said today, hopefully that seed is planted. Hopefully you'll hear something that says it's worth doing. I'll close with this one statement from Lori, my wife. She told a group of people about 15 years, well, about 10 years ago, because I'm still working on being a good servant leader. She told a group of people, she says, if servant leadership can change art, it can change anybody. Now, at first I went, what? And it took me a while to realize that was the best compliment that my wife, Lori, could give me. So if you want to live your life differently, start with yourself. Treat people with dignity and respect, and serve from your heart. And you'll be amazed at the journey. Thank you guys for letting me come and hang out with you today. I love what you guys do. Thank you very much. Thank you. Time for questions or anything?
Time for questions.
Okay, all right, cool.
Can you just let them know how to get more information about SLI?
Yep, servantleadershipinstitute.com is where I know it's long, but once you put it in there and save it, it's easy to get to. You can Google Art Barter, and that might be interesting because there's some interesting stuff out there. I was actually a subject in a criminal investigation with the Department of Justice. I was accused by a big company, big defense company that probably everybody in this room has heard of violating the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. And I spent a year proving that I was innocent instead of guilty. I could talk about that for another 3 hours. All right, so if you find that, hey, that's great. But you know what we believed when that started? I got my whole company together and I said, listen, I believe that the truth will set you free. When you're asked questions by attorneys, leaders, I don't care who asks, you tell the truth. And you know what? They realized that we were doing business the right way, even in countries like Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Botswana, Zimbabwe, some of the most corrupt countries in the world, because we did it right. Yeah. Or you can go Datron World Communications and see what we're all about. There's a little bit of servant leadership in there. Yeah.
Got a question. I once worked for a manager who was like the vice president of the West region. And we had a meeting on a Wednesday morning, all the sales managers. And we were talking about motivating the salespeople and stuff. And he said, with a bold face, I'm a big fan of public humiliation.
Oh, boy.
Motivating, my people.
Yep.
And, this actually happened. Big company. How would you deal with somebody like that?
Well, if I was financially independent, I would ask my boss, does that apply with you first? Can we do that with you first? But you got to be able to walk out the door, right? Don't be stupid, right? You still have a family, people to take care of. I've run across a lot of power leaders in my day. And if they're serious about that and that's how they want to manage, it's time to go find another company. It's time to leave. Because that manager doesn't care about turnover rates. All they care about is performance. If you don't perform, he won't hesitate to fire and get rid of you. And that's not a great environment to grow, learn, and move forward. And if you got somebody like that, yeah. I worked for a president back in early 2000s. And he got all the senior staff together. He was new to the division, and he says, I want you to know that I don't trust anybody in the room. Okay. I said, you're going to give me all the information, I'm going to make all the decisions. And he says, I don't trust you, but I don't want you to take it personally. What? What are you talking about? He didn't last, he was gone in a year and a half because people weren't willing to perform for him. Now, people will perform for that leader because that's what they like. They like to get beaten up. And hey, if that's what you want, hey, go to it. But those leaders usually needs to lose a lot of people and get fired based on a performance. Yeah, yeah. So my guess is after that leader said that, the whole group was really inspired.
You know, it's funny. I think he inspired by fear.
Right, exactly. Yep.
It was around the 2008, 2009 economic collapse.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember him getting up in front of. We had like a all hands meeting.
Mm-hmm.
We had all the technicians, engineers. There must have been 200 people in the room. He said, this is the time where you're very fortunate to be working for a company like X. And it's interesting. When he said that, it clicked in my mind. Okay, I got to get out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
This is not going well.
Nope, it's not going to.
It's like 180 degrees from how I manage, people get results.
Yep, exactly. Any other questions I can answer? Yes.
Of all of your experiences with the certification, what was the most rewarding thing that you've done?
Well, changing the dynamics in my family has got to be number one. My daughter is one of my best friends today, and I wouldn't have gotten that if I had kept being the person I was being. Lori, Jennifer, and my son Chris are all active in the business. When you watch your kids grow and be able to take on tasks and be successful, and even make mistakes and learn, there is so much joy in watching your kids mature during the day instead of just at night and weekends. Yeah, yeah. And then the people I've met, high military officials, wow, you get the chance to talk servant leadership. There's no way I could have done that on my own. Yeah. Yes?
Best book you've read recently?
The best book I've read is on beliefs. Got me thinking a little differently about beliefs. Oh gosh, what's the name of that? If you Google beliefs, you're going to be able to find it. Changed my way of thinking and changed some of our leadership mindsets about what we believe and how we approach our business. There's a gentleman who wrote a book called Be the Best You. Basically a rapper type, long, beaded hair and all that kind of neat stuff. Fantastic book. And then I do some reading for enjoyment. A couple of my top books in the last year have been reading about people who have sailed around the world and the adventures that they've had, meeting people, cultures, challenges they had. So I also do that kind of reading for enjoyment as well. I need to get away. Yeah. Yeah, Sarah?
So we've been involved with you for years, but servant leadership can feel overwhelming. You have a lot of aspects of build trust or listen to understand or add value. Where could you say someone could start? What would be the best place to
So what Sarah is talking about, we have 9 behaviors of a servant leader that we teach. And they are serve first. And this is how I remember them. You probably heard this story. This will be real quick. Lori, my wife, loves to have coffee made for her in the morning. I don't know why. I don't care. All I want is a happy wife first thing in the morning. So the first thing I do, before I do anything else, I make a pot of coffee. Serve first. I get in my car, drive to work, drive past a bus stop with a school bus. That school bus reminds me to build trust, because one of the lowest ratings we have in middle school and high school, people we're raising today and educating, is trust. Nobody trusts each other. Then I get on the freeway, and I have to live my values to get on the freeway, don't I? No hand signals. Can't do the hand signals. Can't yell at people. I get on the freeway. I have people in back east. I'll normally get on the cell phone. I have the speaker, all that kind of neat stuff, so I'm legal. I have to listen really hard to hear what they're saying in the car environment. It reminds me to listen to understand. Not just listen to understand. Then, the rest of the time I have is to think about my thinking, do reflection. Because if you decide to serve people, you decide to build trust, you decide to live by your values, and you decided to listen to what they have to say, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with it? Throw it in the trash? You have a responsibility to do something with it. So think about your thinking. Reflect. I get to my parking lot. I walk in the front door. The front door of my company with my company name on it reminds me to serve people, to add value to people. I go up the stairs, see Lisa, who Dave and Sarah both know. She's the keeper of me. She's my wife at work. And she keeps telling me all this stuff I've been putting off that I need to be doing. You got to have courage. Now, if you've seen the movie The Green Book, there's a great line in that. Great line. Gentleman, black musician, educated, trying to change the hearts and minds of people. And one of the guys in this trio said this statement: it takes courage to change someone's heart. Remember, it takes courage to do what I talked about today. All right? Then I have to make sure I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing and being who I said I'm going to be. Make sure I'm performing and doing the behaviors that I'm asking people to do. And then live that transformation. Live it. Every day. And you're going to fail because we're all human, right? And those are the behaviors you were talking about, Sarah. Yeah. Start with yourself. The best place to do is start with yourself because it is a different mindset. If you're already serving people, look at the relationships, see how many trusted relationships you have, and start building those relationships based on trust and service. Yeah, but great question.